Education Minister Hekia Parata made another unpopular decision this week. This time it was to close 2 residential schools for special needs children. One of the schools is considering legal options to fight the closures, and there's been plenty of criticism from affected parents. But what does this mean for the whole education system, and how are mainstream schools going to cope with special needs children? With us now is the Vice President of the New Zealand Education Institute, Frances Guy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
In regards to these closures, have you had any correspondence with any of the affected families?
They're very concerned, the affected families. I mean, these girls and these boys in these schools have the most difficult intellectual and behavioural issues. They've been through wraparound services, they've had all the help they can have in the mainstream schools, and that's why they're in these special schools, and they need this 24-hour-a-day care.
Yeah. This week has been the first time I've really heard about these special schools, but they play a very important part, yes?
Very important part, and they're for the most needy, most difficult students who have the most difficult, needy problems, you know. And there aren't many go into these schools, and to lose 2 schools is very sad for those families.
So why would you think that the Education Minister thinks that it's a good idea to absorb it into mainstream schools?
Save money. Save money. It's not about education. She talks about wanting 5 out of 5 children to succeed. This is one way that these children have the chance of succeeding, and it's being taken away from them.
It's inevitably going to put pressure on mainstream schools as well, having to cater for that. Talk to me about that. What are the costs involved?
Well, we're told these girls and boys will get wraparound services. Now, to have been got into those schools, they will have had that and it won't have succeeded. Going back into mainstream schools, that service is not guaranteed for more than the next 2 years, and there won't be the resources and the people there 24 hours a day for those girls, both at home and at school, nor in the schools. Already the schools are struggling to get teacher aides and specialist teachers and psychologists for children who need that, and they're not going to be there for these girls. And that's really hard, because what teachers and families want is the very best education for all the children, and there isn't the resourcing for it. And we can't just keep on saying stretch it, stretch it, stretch it. We actually need more resources to help these students.
Yeah. You talked about wraparound services. Well, explain what they are exactly.
Well, if you have a child in the school, a student who might need teacher aid, who might need it for all the hours they're at school, the wraparound service says that that's what you'll get. If you need specialist teachers for those girls and boys, you will get that. If you need a psychologist or the physiotherapist or whatever you need, the wraparound service says that you will get everything you need to enable that child to stay in the school and get the education they need. These have always been short-term, and they'll continue to be short-term. But the needs of these children are not short-term. Often these girls and boys, their needs will be long-term, needs.
Which is part of the problem, because the Education Ministry have said that they will fund the transition period for 2 years. You'd say that's not long enough.
Absolutely not. And then what about the next layer of children that are coming through? There's no guarantee that there'll be any wraparound service, let alone residential schools, for those students.
Yeah. Do you have any sympathy for the government, knowing that they have to pull in the purse strings, they have to tighten things up, and sometimes schools have to close?
The government talks about choice, and they've got a choice where they spend their money, and they're choosing not to spend it in education or on the needs of these 5 out of 5 students that they talk about.
Okay. All right. You have been heard. Thank you for your point of view this morning. Frances Guy, the NZEI Vice President.